Welcome back to the Your Everyday Strength podcast. My name is Josh Sternberg. If you're just joining me here for the first time today, welcome. Thank you very much for being here. If you are returning, thank you. I appreciate the fuck out of you. Today, solo, flying the coop, flying solo. It has been a hot minute since I've done a solo episode. I mean, I did do one a couple of weeks ago, the 30 lessons in 30 years. However, it's been a hell of a long time since I've done an episode where it's just a catch up. And I feel like the last sort of episode I did similar to this was at the start of the year when your boy was going through it mentally, emotionally. It felt like the weight of the world was quite literally resting on my shoulders at that point in time. And it was really hard. It was a really hard episode to film and put out. And I didn't even actually end up uploading it to YouTube because you could see me crying, and I didn't want to put that out there. I've never really been somebody who wanted to be on social media or online crying or one of those guys, you know what I mean? Not that there's anything against that. I think sharing emotion, I think, having emotions in that regards are incredibly valuable. Just for me, I didn't feel comfortable to share that at that point in time. And there's been a hell of a lot that's happened since. There really has. We're now in July. I would have recorded that last solo episode back in February or March, and there's been a lot going on since then. So I figured, you know what? I was actually meant to have a guest come in today. They had to bail last minute due to their son being sick. And I was like, well, I'm going to still record, and I'll just put this episode out there as a little bit of a catch up, a little bit of a see what's going on in the life and the world of Josh, because there has been quite a lot of development. So strap in, stick around. Hopefully there's some lessons to be taken out of this for other people. Hopefully there's something you can take from this episode. But to kick us off, I guess the biggest development that has happened over this period of time is, unfortunately, my father was diagnosed with quite aggressive stage 4 lymphoma. I've put a post online about it. I've discussed it a couple of times. It's not something I've discussed in great detail because it's not my story to tell, for one. And it's quite personal. It's quite a hard story to talk about. I say story, it's not even a story, it's real life. It's the reality of what's happening right now. It's been really, really hard. We all know death is inevitable. It's going to happen. We are all going to die. I quite literally got my back tattooed not that long ago, and across the top of my back is now memento mori, which essentially means like you will die. It's an inevitable fact of life. We all accept that as a part of life, but until you're truly faced with the potential mortality of someone so close to you, such as your dad, who's your first role model, they're the first person you model as a young boy, as a young man, they're the first person you start to model your behaviors off. And I am very grateful for my father. I have learned a lot from him. I've learned a lot of lessons through him, and he moved me down to Melbourne from the Gold Coast. He came up, got a truck organized, helped me move down. This was in January. And in March, we got a call that his spleen had exploded on the side of the road. He was rushed into emergency surgery in Wodonga as he was driving home from work. He had it removed. I then went up and picked him up, which I was very grateful that I was here, which I'll touch on shortly with, the universe the way it is. And then from that moment, we kind of knew something was a little bit askew. And I took him to his appointment to see a specialist who diagnosed him at that point. We didn't really know the full scale of what was going on. We've since found out further information that it eventually did get into his spine and into his brain, and he was rushed into like chemo pretty quickly. It's been a fucking pretty hard slog because you have a picture in your mind of who your parents are. And you always seem to picture them at their healthiest, at their strongest, at their best, because that's the image you hold in your mind. And I remember walking into into the hospital room for the first time and seeing Dad laying there, and it was probably one of the hardest moments of my life to see the effect it's had on him physically, mentally, emotionally. He's one of the smartest people I know, one of the most articulate. He is so cluey. I've never met another person who can just run numbers the way this man can. Touch of the tism, potentially. Did I inherit it from somewhere? Yes. But he's one of the smartest people I know. And to see aspects of that taken away from him, to just watch him struggle to do daily things that like normally he would just be able to power through, to watch him physically unable to walk unassisted has been hard. He's someone who, he's in his 60s. He's 63 this year in a few weeks' time. And he was pretty proud of his head of hair. That was one thing he's really proud of, which is cool. It's cool. So it gave me some hope for the future. And I know that, you know, he's had to shave his hair due to chemo. And I know that was really tough for him. And just to see him take a lot of this stuff in his stride as best as he can. And every single time we've been given some not so great news, he tries to stay as strong as he can for us, and that's phenomenal. But at the same time, he also knows the space is there to be able to open up and talk. I mean, to me anyway, and you know, my sisters, his wife, my other brother. I say my other brother, my only brother, and that's been a really, really big process because there's so much unknown, and it's obviously taken a toll on him, which is to be understood. But I don't think it's really spoken about too much, the toll it does take on those around him, from his family, especially for us, because we want to be there for him. And I've spent a lot of time at the hospital. I've spent a lot of time driving to see him, which I'm very fortunate that I'm in Melbourne now to be able to do so. And I remember driving to pick him up to take him to his appointment where he was eventually diagnosed. And I was sitting there, and in my brain, for quite a few months, I'd continued to keep racking my brain about why the universe had brought me to Melbourne when it did, why everything just aligned so perfectly. Originally, we were actually supposed to move in March, and everything just got fast-tracked to January, and I couldn't figure out why, especially with everything I was going through at that time. I was like, why would the universe want me to face all of this right now? Like, what is it that it's trying to teach me? And I realized that if we had had to wait to March, he wouldn't have been able to move us, and we probably wouldn't have been able to move. And I remember driving there, and I was like, in my brain, something just popped in and goes, this is why you're here. This moment right here, to be able to go and pick my father up and take him to his appointment and sit there with him and listen to what the doctor had to say and try and be strong and ask questions and figure out a way that we can try and help him as best as we can. That was exactly one of the reasons. That was why I'm in Melbourne when I am. And I always know the universe has its plan, has its play. I'm a very big believer of that. I always have been. I've seen it happen too many times for it to not believe in that. It's not always good. It's not always great as to why things are happening as they are. We can't really question these things, but to be here in Melbourne and be able to just be around the corner, it's about an hour drive away, has been phenomenal, because I've gotten to spend a lot of really good quality time with him. Even just little things like just sitting in the hospital bed with him for an afternoon, or watching the footy on his little screen, and just having, the other night we went there and we just had some KFC. Having these moments is so precious. And I know that if I was on the Gold Coast, I wouldn't have had that. I'm trying not to cry. So I'm very grateful for that. But it has been fucking hard. I've been going back to my psych quite a lot, because everything outside of that has been really good. Training's going really well. I'll touch on that further. Other aspects of my life are going really, really well. And this has just been, it's been really hard to juggle the dichotomy of feelings between, having to hold space, the duality of holding space between like one of the most heart-wrenching things that I've ever experienced in my life to this time, and also joy in other aspects. It's really, really hard, and I have felt guilty. I have felt bad because I feel happy. I'm like, how can I be happy when my dad is? We don't know what's happening. And that's been really hard to face. It really has, because it's just a lot. It's a lot. But he's a fucking strong man. He's a very strong man. And we needed to get him into a trial because he has a genetic mutation on his cancer, unfortunately, which makes it a lot more difficult to treat than just it would be normally with just normal chemo. So we had to get him into a trial, but the stipulations of the trial were he couldn't have cancer in his spine or brain. Unfortunately, he had a PET scan and then an MRI, and they were in both spots. Through a very aggressive form of chemo, we were able to get it out of his spine and brain enough that he was then accepted into the trial. And this trial is a hard one to get into. Cost the government about $500,000 per person to go through this process. And they're very specific about the types of people that are allowed to actually go through it. So we were incredibly grateful when he was accepted, and we're very fortunate that he actually has one of the leading researchers on T-cell therapy in Australia as his specialist. It's the amount of things that have, like, serendipitous events that have occurred and aligned for him to be able to get into this trial and just be where he is and give him the best shot at survival. Yeah, best shot at survival is what's happening at the moment, and just trying to juggle that, hold that, still push forward with business, still keep training, still keep showing up for my friends, my family, other aspects of my life. Has been a lot, but it's also taught me a lot, and it's shown me how fucking resilient and strong I can be. And it's not just me, like it's my other family too. They're all in this together. I've got an incredible support network. My mum has been amazing. She's been there for me through it all, because just needed someone to be able to talk to and express things openly. And then throughout this process, just continuing on with life, continuing on with life as it comes, and turning 30 and all the anxiety that brought. And I spoke about that a bit more in the 30 lessons in 30 years. If you haven't listened, go listen. It is, I believe it's actually quite a good episode. It touches on quite a lot of really cool points, but just really hoping that Dad's able to get the results that we need, the results we want, so that we can get back to just living life. It has shown me a greater appreciation. It's shown me a greater ability to be present and just kind of sit there and listen and just hear the way he talks, hear the things he says. I've noticed a greater awareness, which without this experience, I don't believe I would have had. It's offered another perspective in my life, which, again, without this experience, I don't think I would have had, which is a horrible thing to say, that it's taken me the potential of losing my father to actually start to realize, okay, well, this is, like, I need to be present here with him at all times and listen to what he has to say and how he says things, and all these other little just things you don't really think about until you're faced with this situation. But he's remaining strong, and we're looking likely. So this episode will come out on the Monday, and it's very likely that he's going to be going into the T-cell therapy on the Tuesday, or it's potential the 4th of August, which is actually his 63rd birthday. Which, I mean, it'd be a phenomenal present if he's able to find a cure for what's going on at the moment. But yeah, that has been obviously the biggest overarching theme of my life as of late. And there's been, as I said, there has really been so much good happening. I found my place within Melbourne. I found a lot of growth down here already, which I knew I would when first moving here. I knew that I'd be able to find a next level. I knew the next level for me, for the growth I needed to face, was down here, and it has been, because I have been pushed so far out of my comfort zone since moving here that it's not funny. I'm currently training at 2 different gyms. Zero Weakness, Southeast Melbourne. Fucking love it. I love it there so much. I was training at one gym when I first moved here, and I moved on from there, and I went to just another sort of more commercial gym, which I survived about 3 weeks at before quitting, because when I joined, I was not even shown where the toilets were, or the entrance, actually. I was never greeted by the staff. You try and at least smile at people in the gym, you get nothing back. People didn't want to talk. They just wanted to walk around with their headphones on, head down, basically ignoring everyone, which is fine. Everyone's at the gym for different things, and not everybody goes there as a social outlet. Someone like myself who works from home, I go to the gym because I enjoy being around other people, and I enjoy talking to people when I get an opportunity to, and things like that. I don't want to be a serial yapper, but I do actually enjoy having that ability to converse with people outside of sitting in my room with my dog. So it's one of those things that, yeah, I do enjoy the social aspect of going to the gym, and it's one of the biggest reasons why I joined Hurt Locker, which I fucking love. And I've been training there quite a lot. I've made some friends, which is awesome. Putting myself out of my comfort zone and actually having to initiate conversations, and even going as far as, like, one of the boys, Rick, absolute fucking legend. I don't even know if he's going to listen to this. He may not, but just sending a message and be like, hey dude, like, do you want to grab a coffee after class sometime? Like, as a 30-year-old man, that's a fucking, it's a weird thing to send another man that you don't really know. But I had to get out of I had to drop my ego and get out of my own way and be like, dude, do you want friends? Do you want some form of social circle? Do you want other people to actually go and talk to and find similarities with, and all these other aspects of life that are actually really prevalent, and we need that community aspect? Or do you want to continue to be like, oh, well, I got nothing to do, I got no one to hang out with? It was like, cool, this is the solution. You're going to need to get really uncomfortable, but it will pay off. And it has been so far. And then Zero Weakness was a part of that. I went and joined. I've obviously trained at Ground Zero back in the day on the Gold Coast. I love the community aspect of all powerlifting gyms. And Charles, the owner, is an absolute fucking G. He's looked after me so much to help me join that gym. And I am forever grateful for that space and being able to train there. And my training since joining there it's found another gear. I've just fallen back in love with training again. The combination of Hurt Locker and Zero combined has just helped me to level up and bring that spark back in my own training again, which has been phenomenal. I'm really fucking loving it. Getting a little bit ahead of myself here and trying to go through the months as we go. But 12 months ago, I could barely run 5Ks without my shins blowing up. I couldn't run 5Ks, actually. I could run about 2Ks without my shins, without them feeling like they're going to fucking explode. And not long ago, the 31st of May, I think it was, I did Run for Resilience, which was a 22-kilometer run for men's mental health. I thought it was a phenomenal reason to go and run 22 kilometers. I thought it was a great cause. Obviously, I'm such a huge supporter of men's mental health and mental health in general, but especially Movember. Years ago, I've raised money for Movember a couple of times now. I raised over $1,000 by growing a mustache. Now I don't need to grow a mustache. I got a full beard set up. This was before I could grow a mustache. It was disgusting. It was a horrible attempt, but I raised over $1,000, and that was fantastic. And so when this opportunity popped up and I saw it, and I was like, bang, I'm going to go do that. And I did it. And all I had the goal of was just sub 2 hours. I ended up running about an hour 57, which was fantastic. It put me at an hour 53 for the half, which I thought was really, really cool. I've only ever done that similar distance once before, and it took me 2 hours and 20 minutes. So that was a really fucking fun experience. And again, it just pushed me out of my comfort zone and showed me how capable I am when I actually want to do things, and how capable the human body is in general for everybody. We can do things that we actually don't believe we can more often than not. Whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're generally right. And when I signed up for this run, I was like, bang, I'm just going to fucking do it. I don't know how it's going to go, but I'm going to have a crack. And all I want is a sub 2 hours. That's it. That was my only focus. Then when I pulled up at the event and it was 1 degree, the most cyclonic headwinds I could have possibly thought of, couldn't feel my feet for the first 11 Ks, which, that's half the run. I just couldn't feel my feet because they went numb. Still managed to finish it strong. So I was pretty happy with that effort. And yeah, throughout this, like the potty has obviously been cranking. If you've been tuning in every week, you'll have been listening to some fucking fantastic conversations. I have been so grateful for the growth of this podcast this year. It has genuinely taken on another level. And I don't know whether I've mentioned it on the podcast or not yet, but there was a point at the end of last year, start of this year, where I just fell out of love with it a little bit. I was doing a lot of solo episodes. I wasn't really getting many guests on. I wasn't having good conversations. And for me, the whole idea behind the podcast was always to offer expansion and growth for others. And I know a lot of my solo episodes had done that with certain lessons and things like that that were actionable to take away within the moment. And I thought that was great. But I started to feel less and less fulfilled with it because I wasn't necessarily sparking innovation for myself. It was really me talking to people, and I was like, well, I want to have conversations with others where I can learn things, but I can also then take that to the audience and allow them to learn things as well. And that was when I went to Chris Williamson live, and through that, it just sparked this. I was like, this is what I want to do. I want to push this more, and I want to get some phenomenal conversations going. And I have been, which has been great. So I do hope if you're listening to this and you haven't heard any of the previous episodes, please go back and listen. There are some fantastic episodes with some incredible guests, crazy insights, crazy thought processes, and just so much good that can be taken from all of those episodes. So go back and have a bit of a listen. And if you have been listening, then I appreciate the fuck out of you as well. So thank you for that. So the potty's been going really, really well, which is fantastic. It's been growing, increasing subscribers. The average listener count is up massively, so much more than I ever thought it would be, which is really fucking cool to know that people are actually tuning into this. It's not just me talking to myself anymore, which is fantastic. And, shout out to Mum, because she was definitely one of the only people tuning in on YouTube for a period of time. But the views are growing on YouTube as well, which is really fun. And on top of that, coaching is like sort of taken a different level, a different route. It's not so much that it hasn't taken a back seat. I still love coaching. I'm still pushing coaching quite heavily. It's just I've kind of sat with like where I really want to take the direction of my coaching and who I want to be working with and what impact I want to have via coaching. And that's kind of led me down the path of niching down to a degree and helping men like me, like younger Josh, 18-year-old Josh, 19-year-old Josh, who needed a little bit of guidance and a little bit of assistance and a little bit of help, and using nutrition and training as a gateway to a better life, physically, mentally, and emotionally. Teaching a lot of the younger guys I work with about different things like journaling and breath work and the power of being present and gratitude, and not just looking at it from a physical vessel of what training is, but using that physical vessel to then help impact other aspects of their lives. And that's been fucking amazing. It has been so fulfilling. I've loved every iteration of what my coaching has looked like over the nearly 9 years I've been doing it now. But this has just unlocked that next level in me where I'm excited. I just love working with everyone I'm working with at the moment. And anybody who's coming into the space is in that same headspace, in that same mindset. They want growth, they want better, they know they can perform better, not just in the gym, but in everyday life. They're building self-confidence and self-belief, and they're getting better at doing hard things outside of the gym, which is then having a better positive impact on their lives as a whole. And I think that that's a really amazing opportunity that I've been presented with within my life to actually be able to have that impact and have enough lived experience that I can actually offer an insight and assistance to people who may need it in those regards. And I still work with females too. So if you're a female and you're somewhat interested in coaching, please feel free to let me know. I absolutely work with females. I think that there's nothing better than utilizing strength training as a method of showcasing how strong females are. I have quite literally worked with some of the strongest females in the country. I've got a couple of females who have deadlifted over 200 kilos. I've worked with females who have gone to the world stage, multiple nationals, everything you can think of. So I still love working with females. So if you are interested, let me know about coaching. Hit me up. But again, if you're a guy, if you're a young guy, if you know there's more for you in this life and you want to figure out a way to unlock that, hit your boy up. Let me know. Let's get to talking and let's get it figured out for you. But coaching has, definitely been a big push, which has been really cool. As mentioned, it's probably been a little bit harder to push as much as I would like with everything else that's going on. But at the same time, it has been such a grounding experience because it's allowed me to have an anchor. And without that anchor, I feel like I would be lost at sea. It's given me something to sink my teeth into, to problem solve, to help others not avoid my own problems, but it's allowed me to then experience those differently or look at them through a different lens. Or, I take a lot of lessons from my clients as well, as probably as much as they take from me, which I think is one of the best aspects of coaching. So continuing to push that, continuing to grow that, continuing to push the podcast, continuing to grow the podcast. I don't know if I've talked about this on the potty either, but an in-school program talk that I have launched, and it has admittedly probably gone a little bit more on the back burner just with everything else going on at the moment. It's more, okay, if I have spare time, I've been more or less going to the hospital or going to hang out with my dad where I can, or working on the current businesses that I'm already working within. But then also trying to grow this on the external as well is really cool. And that talk is essentially centered around exactly, similar things to the podcast, similar things to the coaching, is how to make strong character, how to make people stronger. Now it's targeted towards year 11 and 12 students, predominantly targeted towards males. Obviously that is kind of where my specialty lies. I don't have first-hand experience at being a younger female, oddly enough, but I believe a lot of the principles as to what I'm talking about actually have a resounding effect for everybody. Talking about things like resiliency, talking about character, who are you when no one else is looking? How do you develop those things? How do you work on those things? How do you become the person you can be, or you want to be? How do you do these things? And that's kind of where the school talk lies. And I think that that's a really cool thing, because we've all had the school talks, and I make the joke all the time to a lot of people that we all know Healthy Harold, right? The fucking giraffe in the van that used to come and talk to us at school and say, don't do drugs, don't do it, don't drink alcohol, all the rest of it. Well, it never stopped me from fucking railing coke and going on benders. I did all of that despite the fact that Harold told me not to. And I, even other talks where we've had people come in and they're just, and this is no disrespect to anybody who's doing anything to help the youth in any regards or teaching lessons. But if I had had somebody come to my school that looked the way I do, or had experienced the things that I've experienced to more or lesser degrees, whatever the case might be, I would have probably been more likely to listen, because there's that relatability aspect. There is that realness. There's familiarity. There's something you can actually connect with. And I believe that that's a big power that I actually have to offer, to be able to actually talk about these things. So I do believe that I could do that quite well. And that's something I'm trying to get off the ground a little bit more. So if anyone knows any high schools in Melbourne or anywhere, if someone wants to fly me somewhere to launch this and get it off the ground, please let me know. It is, it's a fully fledged registered business. I've got everything set up on the back end. I just quite literally need to get into schools. And I know that once I get into the schools for the first time, the momentum will start to build. And that's just how most businesses run. A little bit harder to get off the ground initially. And then once that ball's rolling and you start to get a little bit more experience and some testimonials coming in and things like that, it's something that is going to have a phenomenal impact. And I know that that's going to be something I'm going to be really proud of when the time comes, because it's just a matter of helping create impact at a base level with the youth of today. And I think that we need that in this universe at this moment. I think a lot of people, I don't watch the news. for a reason. There's a lot of negativity in the news. There's a lot of negative things happening around this planet. And the more people we can have who are trying to not necessarily go against the grain, but open perspectives and give different views of the world, I think the better. So yeah, I think that that's going to be a really cool thing as well. As I mentioned, I'm kind of jumping around a little bit here, but hey, that's what these episodes are. If you know me in any regard, you'll know I can go on tangents. Training. The moment I signed up for High Rocks at the end of the year in Melbourne, I just threw myself straight in the deep end. I'm going to do High Rocks Pro singles. I've now realized since training at Hurt Locker, when I first said I was like telling people, I was like, yeah, I'm just going to go do High Rocks Pro singles, like whatever, it is what it is, aim for sub 60. Brother, sub 60 is actually so fucking hard to get. So I don't even know if I'm going to get close. But I just figured that if I'm going to fucking have a crack, I may as well have a fucking crack and just send it. See what happens. See what comes of it. So my training's starting to get a little bit more targeted towards that. Now that I've run the 22Ks, I don't really have any distance goals. I'm probably never going to run a full marathon, or not for the foreseeable future. My two biggest goals, the two next biggest goals for me, are a sub 20-minute 5K and a 300 kilo deadlift. I want to do that in the same weekend, ideally on the same day. That's going to be a really fucking hard challenge, but I think that I could do it. I've deadlifted 300 before, obviously a lot heavier, a lot more fucking androgens in my system. And the sub 25K is going to be probably the hardest thing. My best time I've actually ran is like 22 and a half minutes, and my projected time at the moment is like 21 and a half. So that's still having to shave around 15, 16 seconds off each K to actually be able to get it down towards that sub 4-minute mark consistently. So that's been a really fun challenge, and that's going to be something I'll probably aim to do around September, the end of September, start of October, which gives me a little bit of time to be able to get that one done. And then High Rocks is obviously in December. But Kiva, the Phenom, has qualified for Worlds, which is going to be in Las Vegas. So IPL Worlds, we're going over to Vegas, and that's at the end of November, which is going to be smack bang right in my peak for High Rocks. So that'll be interesting, because I'd already made the plan that I'm going to go to Vegas, and I want to also try and go to LA. But if not, just due to timing and scheduling and things like that, I'm just going to go Vegas to Hawaii. Hawaii has been like the one place I've wanted to go for as long as I can remember. My first tattoo at 17 years old was mother and father in Hawaiian on my chest. I'm not Hawaiian in any regards. I just love the culture, and I love the country. I love the country. I mean, the US, I'm a bit like, whatever. But the I-class, Hawaii is like its own little country, it's a little offset. So I'm very excited for that. I think that's going to be phenomenal, and it'll give me a really good opportunity to sort of just down-regulate and switch off for a bit and explore Hawaii. And I know that that's going to offer a lot of opportunities, because anytime I've traveled in the past, it has brought exponential amounts of growth mentally, which is then just carried through to all other aspects of my life. So I'm very excited for that. Also, this back end of this year has a lot of really exciting things, and I know that obviously the undertone of what's going on with Dad will be there for a majority of this year. I can only hope that things start to improve and get better with that, but we will take every day as it comes, and we'll take whatever happens as it happens. Only control what I can control, and that's something I've had to learn so much more than I ever thought I would have to. Within all of this process at the moment, is like, okay, cool. What is it every single day that I can control? How can I show up as a coach, as a son, as a brother, as all of these things? And that's just something I've had to sit with quite a lot. And I've found a lot of peace and presence in obviously going back to therapy, in continuing to read quite a lot of philosophy and things like that. Like, I'm a very, very big avid reader of philosophy, because I feel there's so many different lessons and values that we actually learn through that. And I'm somebody who's read probably every self-help book you can think of in my time. And then I realized that a lot of the principles that are coming from majority of these self-help books are actually just all derived from philosophy. So I was like, well, instead of just going and reading someone else's interpretation of them, I'm going to go and read the scripts themselves, read it from the source, then take that and make my own interpretations and understanding and implementation into my life and how it affects me and how it affects my experience and my human experience and lived experience and et cetera, et cetera. So that's been really cool because it just gives you almost find a little bit of peace in knowing that you are not alone. And a lot of these texts are written hundreds of years ago. Some, I don't want to say thousands because I don't really know, but there's like some of these stuff that comes from like BC and shit like that. Some of the really ancient philosophers are fucking quite old. Seneca, Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, all of these people, they're just, the lessons have been there for so long, and I guess it's up to us to whether we want to learn them or not, or whether we want to read them or not. And we have all of them available to us, but people obviously tend to opt against it. And that's why I believe self-help books are such a popular thing, because they're essentially like a modernized version of someone's interpretation of something else someone else has written, someone else's lived experience. And we all like to feel like we relate and we have a community behind us and there's familiarity there. So we go and tend to draw ourselves into that and try and become whatever that might be, which is cool. I think it's a really positive thing. And I think anybody who's willing to invest time and energy and effort into themselves is doing themselves, and then by as a default doing others around them a massive service. So yeah, if anybody's interested in any specific books or anything like that, again, let me know, hit me up. I got fucking heaps I can recommend too. But I've found a lot of just peace within that, and it's allowed me to find a little bit more peace in myself. And at the moment, in the last few weeks since turning 30, which was a very big pivotal moment for me, there's a lot of anxiety around it. There was a lot of unknown. There was a lot of, I should be this, or I should be here, or I should have that, or whatever. Once that kind of passed, and I continued to just dive in on this sort of stuff, I found like a level of peace and presence that I hadn't necessarily found before. I found I'm more grateful for the present moment. I found I've been able to be more present across day to day when I am experiencing certain things. And there is so much beauty within that and so much gratitude that I've had for that, because again, none of that would have happened if I hadn't had the experience I've had this year with a lot of other aspects of life. And we're always a lot of people will not want to be down, but at the same time, it's all about experience. If you never experience any down moments, how do you know when you're up? Without the sun or without the darkness, how do you know what sunlight is? It's all these opposites. It's the balance of opposites. It's duality. It's understanding that there's give and take, there's push and pull, there's up and down, there's good and bad, there's yin and yang, there's all of these different things. And when you actually start to fully come into that and understand it and appreciate each moment for what it is, and start to look at the lessons that are under it or within it, you really can start to identify that, okay, cool, I've gone through some pretty fucking horrible things in my life and my time, but that has allowed me to become the person I am today. And I mean, speaking specifically for myself within this, I'm pretty proud of the person I am today. And I know that I can continue to improve. Like, I'm not perfect, no one is. But I know there's aspects I can continue to improve upon. And I think that if we're always continuing to strive to be better, then that is a really good thing as an individual and also as a collective. The better intentions people have in this world and the better we want to carry ourselves each as individuals, then benefits everybody collectively. So it's never wasted doing work on yourself. And I've said that for years with therapy and journaling and diving a little bit deeper into some of the spirituality side of things in my life, and all these just different elements that have essentially constructed to become me, the person I am here today. So yeah, that's probably the catch up. I don't think there's been too much else. That's a lot for someone in like 6 months. It's a lot for someone at 29 years old to shift their entire life from one state to another and not really understand the reason why. But I'm here. I'm still ticking. I'm still kicking. I'm still fucking fighting along. I'm having way more good days than bad days, which I think is fantastic. And I've started to take consolation and appreciation for when the bad moments do happen, because then they lead to the good a hell of a lot more. And Yeah. I said at the start of this episode, I didn't really know where I was going to go, what it was going to fully dive into. I didn't expect to cry. Apologies about that. But that's the reality of life sometimes, right? That's just how it is. So I'd rather be open and honest and showcase the reality and realize that, like, you can get through some really hard stuff. And if you are somebody who's listening right now to this episode and going through anything, no matter what it is, we're all human and we're all having our own lived experiences. Never compare what you're going through to someone else. Never compare the good, never compare the bad, because it is you. You are an individual. It is your own experience. Only compare you to you. Compare yourself to who you used to be. One of the biggest growth aspects that I've really been focusing on in this last 6 months is less about, am I always happy? Because that's just not feasible. It's more focused around, okay, when something does derail me, whether it's personal with relationships or to do stuff to do with dad or whatever the case might be, when something goes bad, how quick am I able to get back to being in a better place? How quick am I able to become more present? How quick am I able to come down regulated emotionally? How quick am I able to actually get myself back into the next emotion? Because we can't always go from sad to happy. It's just not, that's not a realistic expectation. But we can sort of move through the emotions as we go. And it's about how quick am I able to get back to the baseline of who I am, rather than always having the expectation that I should be happy and I should be this and I should be that, because it's just not the case. And that's not the case for anybody. So maybe take that. That could be a piece of advice somebody takes from today. Instead of always focusing, okay, well, how do I stay good and happy all the time? Focus, okay, well, if something does happen that derails me with where I'm sitting right now at this point in time, how do I get myself back to the baseline of where I want to be quicker? I used to be really bad for rumination and downward spirals and anxiety attacks and things like that, stuff that would take 2-3 days to recover from, that I'm now getting back to a baseline within 30 to 60 minutes. Or I'm even getting proactive about it and like, okay, cool. There's a lot of things that are happening right now. This is becoming increasingly overwhelming. I'm going to jot down exactly what's in my brain. I'm going to go for a 20-minute walk with Sammy and I'm going to come back to it. The more you can learn to understand yourself, the better you can understand the triggers and things like that that are arising as a result around you. And then the better you're able to get back to baseline. You're able to emotionally regulate yourself to a better position. Just try it out. See how you go. If you have, tuned in today, if you've got any questions, queries, comments, send me a message. Let me know. Share this episode around if you've taken anything from it. Send me a message if you've taken anything from it, because I would love to chat with anyone. Don't forget, if you are listening on Spotify or YouTube or Apple or any of that, subscribe. If you're not subscribed, subscribe, like, send it with a friend. All of this stuff helps the podcast grow quite a lot. And without people doing those things, it doesn't get out there as much as it could be. And I know that with the more the podcast grows, the better guests I'm able to get on, the better guests I'm able to get on. So better is a very loose term. By better, I mean bigger. Bigger guests, bigger productions, idealistically long term. But the more I'm able to do that, the better I'm able to assist other people by providing more of people's experiences and stories. Because as I said, the conversations I've had this year have been fucking phenomenal. And there's been such a wide array of people coming on the potty that has just blown my mind. And I've loved every conversation I've had. And I know a lot of people out there have loved the conversations as well. So once again, thank you very much for tuning in today. I appreciate you. I appreciate everybody listening. I'll catch you on the next one. Have a great day.